Bringing timeless Buddhist principles to everyday life, we explore mindfulness, compassion, and self-awarenessness in a modern context. By connecting ancient wisdom to today's challenges, we guide you toward inner peace, clarity, and resilience. Welcome to Radiant Wisdom.
Welcome to Radiant Wisdom, where every word invites you to pause, reflect, and connect with the deeper truths of life. Our channel is dedicated to bringing you stories, insights, and guidance that help you navigate this complex, beautiful journey called life. Today's episode is all about a fascinating and deeply human experience: imagination. It's something we all share, a common thread that ties us together as creators, dreamers, and thinkers. But have you ever stopped to wonder about the true nature of imagination? Is it always a gift, or can it sometimes lead us astray? Imagine this: you're sitting by a window on a quiet evening. A gentle breeze carries the scent of fresh rain. Your thoughts wander to a memory, a cherished conversation with someone you love. In that moment, your imagination paints a vivid picture. The sound of their laughter, the way they made you feel, the details you didn't even realize you remembered. It's beautiful, isn't it? This is the power of imagination, to bring us joy, to connect us to moments that matter. But now, imagine the same mind on a different day. Instead of reminiscing about a fond memory, you're caught in a loop of what-ifs. What if I fail? What if things don't go as planned? Your imagination, the same one that brought you comfort, now feels like a storm, swirling with fear and uncertainty. This duality of imagination is what we'll explore today. It's a force of creation, yet also one of distortion. It can inspire us to reach for the stars or trap us in the shadows of our own minds. The key is learning how to understand and balance this powerful tool. Here's where the teachings of Buddhism offer us profound guidance. Buddhism views imagination as neither inherently good nor bad. Instead, it's seen as a neutral force, shaped by our intentions and mindfulness. When guided by awareness, imagination can lead to innovation, connection, and joy. But without mindfulness, it can create delusion, stress, and suffering. Take a moment to consider how imagination shapes your own life. Do you use it to fuel your dreams, to problem solve, to create? Or do you sometimes find yourself lost in thoughts that pull you away from the present moment? If you've ever struggled to find that balance, you're not alone. And the good news is, it's something we can learn to master. In today's episode, we'll uncover the roots of imagination, explore its connection to memory and emotion, and reveal how mindfulness can help us channel it in healthy, productive ways. We'll also share practical steps you can take to harness your imagination as a tool for growth and creativity, without letting it control you. But before we dive in, we'd like to invite you to become a part of this journey. If you find value in these conversations, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps us grow this community of seekers, thinkers, and mindful dreamers. And don't forget, your voice matters. Leave a comment below to share your own thoughts on today's topic. So, settle in, take a deep breath, and let's explore the world of imagination together. Whether you're here to seek clarity, inspiration, or simply a moment of peace, we're glad you've chosen to spend this time with us. Let's begin. The roots of imagination in memory. Imagination at its core is deeply intertwined with memory. Think about it. How often do your daydreams, ideas, or even fears stem from something you've already experienced? The human mind, according to Buddhist psychology, is like a vast and intricate archive. It's called the store consciousness, a reservoir where every thought, feeling, and experience is carefully cataloged. Imagination draws from this reservoir, blending fragments of the past to create something entirely new. Consider this simple example. You're walking through a park and you catch the faint aroma of a flower. Instantly, Your mind leaps back in time, perhaps to a childhood garden, a loved one's embrace, or a sunny day when the world seemed perfectly still. That memory springs to life in vivid detail, the laughter, the colors, the warmth of the sun. But here's the fascinating part. Your imagination doesn't just replay the memory like a movie. It adds layers, filling in the gaps with emotions, associations, and meaning. This is where the magic of imagination begins. Now let's take a closer look at how this process works. In Buddhist terms, the mind doesn't just store memories passively. Instead, it actively reconstructs them, pulling threads from different moments to weave new mental images. Imagine finding an old photograph. At first, it's just an object, a snapshot frozen in time, but as you look closer, your mind begins to connect the dots. You remember the person's voice, the way they smiled, the unspoken emotions that passed between you. What started as a simple memory has now become a vivid mental landscape, shaped and colored by your imagination. But this process isn't always harmless. Sometimes, memory and imagination can work together in ways that distort reality. Let's say you're driving down a familiar road. Out of nowhere, you recall a past argument with a friend. The memory is sharp, the emotions still raw. Before you know it, your imagination starts filling in the blanks. What if they never forgave you? What if they're still angry? What if the friendship is beyond repair? Suddenly, you're no longer on the road. You're lost in a mental story, a projection of your fears. This is where the Buddhist concept of vong tuong, or delusion, comes into play. When we let memory and imagination run unchecked, they can pull us away from the present moment, distorting our perception of reality. It's like looking through a foggy window. What you see is not the world as it is, but as your mind imagines it to be. To better understand this, let's revisit the nature of memory itself. While we often think of memory as something fixed and reliable, science and Buddhist philosophy tell us otherwise. Memories are not static, they're fluid, shaped by time, perspective, and emotion. Each time we recall a memory, we subtly alter it, adding or subtracting details based on our current state of mind. In other words, memory is not a perfect record of the past, but a living, evolving narrative. This dynamic quality of memory is both a blessing and a challenge. On one hand, it allows us to learn, grow, and find meaning in our experiences. On the other, it makes us vulnerable to misinterpretation and emotional reactivity. Have you ever found yourself dwelling on a past mistake, replaying it in your mind over and over again? What begins as a simple memory can spiral into a cycle of guilt, regret, and imagined consequences, all because of how your mind reconstructs the event. Now, let's shift the lens to a more positive side of this interplay between memory and imagination. Some of humanity's greatest achievements have come from our ability to draw on the past and envision something new. Think of an artist who uses childhood memories as inspiration for a masterpiece, or an inventor whose groundbreaking idea stems from a lifetime of experiences. In these moments, memory and imagination work in harmony, fueling creativity and innovation. But even here, balance is essential. Without mindfulness, the same imagination that drives progress can lead to obsession or delusion. For instance, someone might fixate on an idealized memory, longing to recreate a past happiness that no longer exists. This clinging can prevent them from embracing the beauty of the present, where true happiness resides. So what's the takeaway? The roots of imagination lie in memory, but our relationship with those memories determines whether imagination becomes a tool for growth or a source of suffering. By cultivating mindfulness, we can learn to observe our memories without becoming attached to them. Instead of being swept away by the stories our minds create, we can choose to anchor ourselves in the present, using imagination as a bridge to possibility rather than a trap of illusion. In the end, our memories and imagination are gifts, but like all gifts, they must be used wisely. When guided by awareness, they can enrich our lives, connect us to our humanity, and inspire us to dream. But when left unchecked, they can pull us away from the very life we're meant to live, here and now. The Emotional Amplifier. Imagination doesn't exist in isolation. It thrives on emotion, like a fire that grows stronger with the right fuel. Every thought we imagine is colored, shaped, and intensified by the feelings tied to it. Emotions are the amplifiers of imagination. They give it depth, vibrancy, and, at times, a life of its own. Let's start with a simple example. Imagine you're walking down a quiet street on a chilly evening. A gust of cold wind brushes past, and suddenly you're transported to a memory, a cozy cafe where you once sipped a warm drink, wrapped in the comfort of soft lighting and quiet conversation. The sensation of the breeze triggers an emotion, longing. That longing then feeds your imagination, creating a vivid picture of the past. You're no longer just walking down a street. Your mind is now weaving a tapestry of memory, sensation, and desire. This interplay between emotion and imagination is central to how our minds work. In Buddhist philosophy, this process is described through the concepts of feeling, mental formations, and perception. These elements interact constantly. A simple feeling, a sound, a smell, or even a fleeting thought can trigger an emotional response, which then shapes our mental projections. But here's where it gets tricky. While emotions can enrich our imagination, they can also distort it. Strong emotions, particularly fear and desire, have a way of hijacking our thoughts. Imagine, for instance, a person waiting for an important job interview. As the minutes tick by, anxiety builds. What if I mess up? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not good enough? That fear magnifies every imagined scenario, turning a routine event into a source of overwhelming dread. The same can happen with desire. Think about falling in love. At the height of infatuation, your imagination goes into overdrive. You picture a future together, a lifetime of shared happiness. Every interaction feels larger than life because your emotions amplify it. But when the initial excitement fades, you may realize that the person you imagined and the person they truly are don't align. This is a classic example of how emotions can distort our imagination, creating illusions that may lead to disappointment. Buddhist teachings often highlight this connection between emotions and suffering. When we allow emotions to dominate our thoughts, they can lead us into vantung, or delusion, a state where we lose touch with reality. A well-known Zen story illustrates this beautifully. Imagine a man rowing a boat in the fog. Suddenly, he sees another boat coming straight at him. Filled with anger, he shouts warnings, frustrated by the carelessness of the other rower. But as the boat gets closer, he realizes it's empty, floating aimlessly on the current. His anger was based entirely on an assumption, fueled by emotion, not reality. This story is a powerful reminder of how our emotions can lead us to imagine threats that don't exist. When we fail to regulate our emotions, they amplify these imagined scenarios, creating unnecessary suffering. But emotions aren't inherently bad. They're simply a part of being human. When we approach them mindfully, they can enhance our imagination in healthy ways. Consider an artist drawing inspiration from sadness or a writer channeling joy into their work. In these moments, emotions fuel creativity, adding depth and authenticity. The key is balance. Mindfulness offers a way to manage this balance. By observing our emotions without attaching to them, we can prevent them from hijacking our imagination. For example, in mindfulness meditation, practitioners are taught to acknowledge their emotions without judgment. If fear arises, they label it, "This is fear." If joy arises, they observe it, "This is joy." This simple practice creates a space between feeling and reaction, allowing the imagination to settle naturally. Another way to think about it is this: emotions are like waves, and our imagination is the ocean. When the waves are calm, the ocean reflects the sky clearly. But when the waves are turbulent, the reflection becomes distorted. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to calm the waves, allowing our imagination to function with clarity and purpose. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with emotional triggers, news headlines, social media, personal challenges, it's more important than ever to understand how emotions influence our imagination. Without awareness, we risk being swept away by waves of fear, anger, or desire, losing sight of what's real. So how can we use emotions as an amplifier for positive imagination instead of distortion? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to how your emotions influence your thoughts. Are you imagining worst-case scenarios because of fear? Are you idealizing something because of desire? Once you're aware, you can begin to shift your focus. Use your emotions to fuel creativity, connection, and insight, rather than letting them create illusions that lead to suffering. In the end, our emotions are not enemies, they're guides. When we approach them with mindfulness, they can enhance our imagination, helping us to dream, create, and connect in meaningful ways. But without mindfulness, they can lead us into the fog, where reality becomes blurred. The choice, as always, is ours. When imagination goes too far. Imagination is a remarkable gift, but like any powerful tool, it can become dangerous when misused. Left unchecked, imagination has the potential to lead us away from reality, creating illusions, unrealistic expectations, and even harmful mental patterns. This happens when imagination goes too far, crossing the boundary between creativity and delusion. Let's begin with something many of us can relate to: daydreaming about the future. Picture someone imagining their dream life. Perhaps they see themselves achieving massive success, living in a beautiful home, surrounded by admiration and wealth. This can be motivating, even inspiring, but what happens when the imagined future begins to overshadow the present? For some, this dream becomes an obsession, creating a constant sense of dissatisfaction with their current life. They might compare every aspect of their reality to their idealized vision and feel frustrated when the two don't align. This phenomenon, often amplified by social media, where others appear to live perfect lives, can lead to feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, and even depression. Buddhism describes this state as imagination sickness. It's a mental trap where the gap between reality and fantasy becomes so wide that we lose our grounding. Instead of focusing on actionable steps to improve our lives, we become lost in endless what-ifs or unrealistic dreams. Another way imagination can go too far is through anxiety. Have you ever caught yourself spiraling into worst-case scenarios? Let's say you send a message to a friend and don't get a reply right away. Your imagination kicks in. Did I say something wrong? Or are they upset with me? What if they're avoiding me? Suddenly, a simple delay becomes a source of overwhelming stress, all because your imagination created a narrative that doesn't align with reality. In severe cases, overactive imagination can lead to delusion. This is when someone begins to see patterns, signs, or connections that don't exist. For example, they might believe that every small event in their life holds cosmic significance, or that others are conspiring against them. This kind of distorted imagination not only isolates individuals, but can also disrupt their ability to function in daily life. One striking example of this is found in perfectionism. Many perfectionists imagine a flawless outcome for every task they undertake. While this can drive high standards, it can also lead to procrastination, fear of failure, and burnout. The imagined ideal becomes so unattainable that it paralyzes them, preventing any progress at all. So, why does imagination sometimes spiral out of control? A big part of the answer lies in our attachment to outcomes. When we cling to an imagined future or dwell on past mistakes, we give our imagination too much power. Instead of using it as a tool for growth, we let it control us, distorting our perception of what's possible and real. Buddhist teachings offer a way to break this cycle. At the heart of these teachings is the idea of mindfulness, a state of being fully present, observing thoughts without attachment. When imagination starts to spiral, mindfulness helps us recognize what's happening. Instead of getting caught up in the mental storm, we can step back and see it for what it is, a story our mind is creating. Take, for instance, the practice of mindful breathing. By focusing on your breath, you anchor yourself in the present moment, making it easier to notice when your thoughts drift into unhelpful territory. Another helpful practice is questioning the narrative your imagination creates. Ask yourself, is this thought based on reality, or is it just my mind projecting fears or desires? It's also important to ground your imagination in action. Instead of endlessly dreaming about success, focus on the small, tangible steps you can take to move closer to your goals. Instead of worrying about worst-case scenarios, prepare for them in a practical way. Then let the fear go. Imagination becomes dangerous when it pulls us away from the present moment. But when guided by awareness, it can be a source of creativity, problem-solving, and hope. The key is learning to recognize the line between healthy imagination and harmful distortion. Remember, the mind is like a garden. Left untended, it can become overrun with weeds, wild, unchecked thoughts that cloud our judgment and cause unnecessary suffering. But with mindfulness as our gardener, we can cultivate imagination that inspires and uplifts rather than overwhelms. So, the next time your imagination begins to run wild, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I creating something beautiful? Or am I losing myself in illusions? The answer may surprise you. Mindfulness, the anchor for the wandering mind. The human mind is often compared to a restless monkey, jumping from one thought to another without pause. This restlessness becomes even more pronounced when imagination takes over, leading us down endless paths of what-ifs and if-onlys. While imagination can be a source of beauty and creativity, it can also distract us from reality, leaving us feeling lost or overwhelmed. So how do we calm this wandering mind? The answer lies in mindfulness, the practice of anchoring ourselves in the present moment. Mindfulness, at its core, is the art of paying attention. It's about observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. In the context of imagination, mindfulness acts as a grounding force, helping us differentiate between productive creativity and mental noise. When our thoughts begin to spiral, mindfulness pulls us back to the here and now, allowing us to see things as they truly are. Imagine this scenario. You're at work, trying to focus on a task. Suddenly your mind drifts to a conversation you had earlier in the day. You replay it in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. Before you know it, you're caught in an imagined scenario where your words have caused harm. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and you feel a wave of anxiety. But here's the truth. None of this is happening right now. It's all in your head. This is where mindfulness steps in. By practicing mindfulness, you can recognize when your thoughts are pulling you away from the present. Instead of getting swept up in the story your mind is creating, you can pause, take a deep breath, and return to what's real. The task in front of you, the sensation of your breath, or the sounds around you. This simple act of awareness can break the cycle of overthinking, allowing you to regain clarity and focus. In Buddhism, mindfulness is often likened to a lamp that illuminates the darkness. When we bring awareness to our wandering thoughts, we can see them for what they truly are, temporary and often exaggerated. For instance, have you ever noticed how a problem seems much smaller after a good night's sleep? That's because time and awareness have a way of softening the intensity of our imagined fears. One of the most powerful tools for cultivating mindfulness is meditation. In mindfulness meditation, you focus your attention on a single anchor, such as your breath, a candle flame, or a mantra. As you meditate, you'll inevitably notice your mind wandering. Instead of resisting these thoughts or judging yourself for having them, you gently guide your focus back to your anchor. Over time, this practice trains your mind to return to the present more easily, even in the midst of chaos. Consider the story of a Zen monk and his student. The student, eager for enlightenment, asked the monk for advice on calming his restless mind. The monk simply replied, "Drink your tea." At first, the student was confused, but the message was clear. By focusing fully on the act of drinking tea, its warmth, its taste, the sensation of the cup in his hands, he could experience the present moment fully, without distraction. This simple yet profound practice of mindfulness can be applied to everyday life. Whether you're eating, walking, or even washing dishes, mindfulness invites you to immerse yourself completely in the experience. Instead of letting your thoughts wander to the past or future, you stay present with what is. Mindfulness also teaches us to observe our imagination without becoming entangled in it. For example, if you notice yourself daydreaming, you can label it, "This is a thought," or "This is a memory." By naming the experience, you create a mental distance, allowing you to choose whether to engage with it or let it go. Another benefit of mindfulness is its ability to transform our relationship with emotions. When fear, anger, or sadness arise, we often react instinctively, letting these emotions drive our imagination. But with mindfulness, we can pause and observe the emotion as it unfolds. Instead of being overwhelmed by it, we can simply acknowledge it. This is fear, or this is anger. This practice not only reduces the intensity of the emotion, but also prevents it from fueling unhelpful thoughts. Ultimately, mindfulness offers us a way to reclaim control over our wandering minds. It doesn't mean suppressing imagination or emotions. It means observing them with clarity and compassion. By anchoring ourselves in the present moment, we can use our imagination as a tool for creativity and growth, rather than a source of stress or delusion. The next time you catch your mind wandering, take a moment to pause. Focus on your breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Remind yourself that the present moment is the only reality. Everything else, your fears, your dreams, your regrets, exists only in your mind. And with mindfulness, you have the power to choose how much energy you give to them. Balancing creativity with reality. Creativity is one of humanity's greatest strengths. It has fueled the creation of art, the development of technology, and the solutions to countless challenges throughout history. At its best, creativity allows us to envision a better future, to dream big, and to innovate in ways that improve lives. But creativity must be grounded in reality. Without that balance, imagination can lead to unrealistic expectations, frustration, or even harm. Think about a painter standing before a blank canvas. Their imagination might conjure up an extraordinary vision, an intricate, breathtaking masterpiece. But the reality is that their skill, materials, and time may limit what they can actually achieve in that moment. If the painter becomes too attached to their idealized vision, they might feel paralyzed by the gap between their imagination and their current reality. However, if they approach the task with acceptance and focus on creating step by step, they can still produce something meaningful, even if it doesn't match their initial vision perfectly. This interplay between creativity and reality is something we all experience. In modern society, where ambition is often celebrated, it's easy to let our imaginations run wild. We dream of becoming wealthy overnight, achieving instant fame, or living a life free of challenges. While dreaming big can be inspiring, it can also create a dangerous trap, the illusion that we can skip the effort and process required to achieve real success. Buddhist teachings offer a profound perspective on this. The middle path, Trung Dao, emphasizes the importance of balance in all things, including imagination. It teaches us to honor our creative potential while staying firmly grounded in the present moment. This doesn't mean giving up on dreams, it means approaching them with wisdom and practicality. Let's take an example from the business world. Imagine an aspiring entrepreneur who dreams of building a multi-million-dollar company. Their imagination is filled with visions of success, thriving offices, widespread recognition, and financial freedom. But if they focus solely on the end result, without acknowledging the hard work, sacrifices, and failures that come with building a business, they're likely to become disillusioned. On the other hand, if they break their vision into smaller, actionable steps, researching the market, developing a product, and building relationships, they can turn their creative vision into a tangible reality. The same principle applies to personal relationships. Many people imagine their ideal partner or the perfect marriage. They create mental images of romance, harmony, and lifelong happiness. But reality often looks different. Relationships require compromise, patience, and effort. If we cling too tightly to our imagined ideals, we may feel disappointed when real-life relationships don't match those expectations. Instead, by grounding our imagination in understanding and compassion, we can appreciate the beauty of imperfect, genuine connections. One of the keys to balancing creativity with reality is practicing mindful creativity. This involves approaching imaginative pursuits with awareness and intentionality. Ask yourself, what is my goal? Is it achievable with the resources and time I have? Am I being realistic about the steps required? By aligning your imagination with your present circumstances, you can channel your creativity in ways that lead to meaningful outcomes. Another important aspect is detachment from results. In Buddhism, this is known as vochap, letting go of attachment. When we're overly fixated on a specific outcome, we set ourselves up for frustration if reality doesn't align with our expectations. But when we approach creativity with openness and flexibility, we allow space for unexpected opportunities and solutions to emerge. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. He famously failed thousands of times before finding the right design. If he had been attached to immediate success, he might have given up early on. Instead, he saw each failure as a step closer to his goal. This mindset, anchoring imagination in persistence and action, is what ultimately led to his groundbreaking achievement. Finally, balance requires self-awareness. Take time to reflect on your dreams and aspirations. Are they rooted in genuine passion and purpose, or are they influenced by external pressures or unrealistic expectations? By regularly checking in with yourself, you can ensure that your creativity serves your well-being rather than leading you astray. At its heart, balancing creativity with reality is about harmony. It's about dreaming boldly while remaining connected to the present. It's about turning your imagination into a tool for growth, not a source of frustration. And it's about recognizing that even if reality doesn't always match your vision, there is beauty and value in the process of creation itself. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by the gap between your dreams and your current reality, pause, take a deep breath. Focus on what you can do right now, in this moment. Remember, creativity flourishes when it's grounded in action, mindfulness, and a deep appreciation for the journey. Your imagination is a gift. Use it wisely, and it can transform your reality in ways you never thought possible. Practical tools to harness imagination. Imagination is a powerful force. It shapes how we view the world, solve problems, and pursue our dreams. But like any powerful tool, it requires skill and intention to use it effectively. When left unchecked, imagination can pull us into distraction, anxiety, or unrealistic expectations. However, with the right practices, we can harness our imagination as a tool for growth, creativity, and clarity. Let's explore some practical strategies to guide your imagination toward meaningful outcomes. 1. Practice mindful observation. The first step to harnessing your imagination is learning to observe your thoughts without judgment. Mindful observation involves noticing when your mind begins to drift into daydreams, worries, or fantasies, and gently bringing it back to the present moment. Here's a simple exercise. Close your eyes and focus on your breath. As you breathe in and out, observe the flow of your thoughts. You might notice your imagination wandering to an unfinished task, a future goal, or even an old memory. Instead of following these thoughts, label them, "This is a worry" or "This is a memory." Then gently return your focus to your breath. This practice trains your mind to recognize when your imagination is running wild, giving you the power to redirect it. 2. Set boundaries for your imagination. Imagination thrives when it has a clear purpose. Without structure, it can easily spiral into unproductive or overwhelming territory. One way to set boundaries for your imagination is by dedicating specific times for creative thinking or problem solving. For example, you might schedule 20 minutes a day to brainstorm ideas for a project or visualize your goals. During this time, let your imagination flow freely without distractions. But once the session is over, shift your focus back to the present moment. This practice helps you avoid getting lost in endless mental scenarios while still benefiting from the creative insights your imagination provides. 3. Channel imagination into action. Imagination is most effective when it's paired with action. Instead of spending hours envisioning a perfect outcome, ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today to bring this vision closer to reality? By turning your ideas into tangible actions, you transform your imagination from a source of wishful thinking into a tool for progress. For instance, if you've been imagining writing a book, start by outlining a single chapter. If you've been daydreaming about a healthier lifestyle, take one step. Go for a short walk or prepare a nutritious meal. These small actions not only ground your imagination in reality, but also build momentum toward your goals. 4. Use creative outlets. Sometimes imagination needs an outlet to flourish. Creative activities like journaling, painting, music, or even gardening can give your imagination a space to express itself. The key is to engage in these activities without judgment. Allow yourself to create freely without worrying about the outcome. Journaling in particular is a powerful way to process and organize your thoughts. Set aside 10 minutes each day to write down your ideas, dreams, or concerns. You might be surprised at how much clarity and inspiration emerge from putting your thoughts on paper. 5. Reflect on your motivations. Imagination is often shaped by our inner motivations, our desires, fears, and values. To harness your imagination effectively, take time to reflect on what drives your thoughts. Are your daydreams fueled by genuine passion, or are they influenced by societal pressures or insecurities? For example, if you've been imagining a life of wealth and success, ask yourself, why do I want this? Will it truly bring me happiness, or is it just what I've been taught to pursue? By aligning your imagination with your authentic values, you can focus on goals that bring genuine fulfillment rather than chasing illusions. 6. Practice gratitude to ground your imagination. Gratitude is a powerful tool for grounding your imagination in the present moment. When we're constantly imagining what we don't have, it's easy to feel dissatisfied or overwhelmed. But by practicing gratitude, we shift our focus to what's already good in our lives, creating a sense of balance and contentment. Each day, take a few moments to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. These could be as simple as the warmth of the sun, a kind word from a friend, or the taste of your favorite meal. Gratitude doesn't stifle your imagination. Instead, it provides a solid foundation from which your creativity can grow. 7. Surround yourself with supportive people. Imagination is contagious. When you spend time with people who inspire, challenge, and encourage you, your own imagination thrives. Seek out a community of like-minded individuals who value creativity and mindfulness. Share your ideas, listen to theirs, and collaborate on projects that excite you. In Buddhist teachings, this concept is known as Sangha, a supportive community that helps you stay grounded and aligned with your goals. Just as a flame burns brighter in the presence of others, your imagination becomes more vibrant when nurtured by positive influences. 8. Embrace meditation to calm mental clutter. Finally, one of the most effective tools for harnessing imagination is meditation. Meditation helps calm the mental clutter that often clouds our thoughts, allowing us to access our imagination with greater clarity. Try this simple meditation. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. As thoughts arise, whether they're worries, ideas, or memories, acknowledge them without judgment and let them pass, like clouds drifting across the sky. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to stay present, making it easier to guide your imagination in productive directions. Imagination is a gift, but it requires mindful stewardship. By practicing observation, setting boundaries, and grounding your imagination in action, you can turn it into a powerful tool for growth and creativity. Remember, the goal isn't to suppress your imagination, but to guide it with intention and clarity. When used mindfully, your imagination has the potential to enrich your life and bring your dreams closer to reality. The next time your thoughts begin to wander, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how can I use this moment to create something meaningful? With practice, you'll discover that imagination, when harnessed wisely, is one of your greatest strengths. Imagination is a gift, but like any powerful tool, it must be used wisely. With mindfulness and ethical awareness, we can transform our dreams into reality without losing touch with the present moment. Remember, true freedom isn't about escaping reality through imagination. It's about engaging with it fully, with an open heart and a clear mind. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found this episode insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to Radiant Wisdom. And don't forget, your thoughts matter. Drop a comment below and let us know how imagination shapes your life. Until next time, stay mindful, stay present,